Hey dreamers and purpose seekers! In today's video, I'm going to cover part 3 of the 8-part series for conquering anxiety to take back control over your life. In today's video, I'm going to talk about resistance to change. How many times have you had to deal with a sudden change in your life? Does it often make you feel uncertain? Does it make you feel anxious? In today's video, I'm going to cover several tips to help you with dealing with change and then understanding what resistance to change really is and how that shows up for you. It's time to take back control over your life and your anxiety. So let's go. Let's get it. Welcome to Work on Your Purpose. I'm TL Talks. This channel is for aspiring entrepreneurs just like you to help you build your confidence to start creating your business and work on your purpose. My purpose is to teach you how to get out of your own way. Today's video is all about resistance to change. Before I get started, make sure that you tap on the thumbs up button and that you hit the subscribe button if this is your first time to the channel. I appreciate you. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Today's video, we're going to talk all about resisting change and how to overcome the anxiety that change brings. How do you deal with change? Are you the type of person that seeks change or that you try to avoid it like most of us? Resisting change normally comes down to one thing, and that's fear. Specifically, fear of the unknown. So even the fullest amount of information possible, there are things that we can't predict, and it's scary. Think about it, starting a new job, starting a new family, getting married, visiting a new country. You may fear losing your job. You may fear starting your new business. It's not only the negative changes that we fear, we also fear changes that are actually good for us. Maybe you got a new promotion and you're afraid of what that might be like. Maybe you got married to someone that you really love, but you're not sure of how it's going to work out once you live together. There's all kinds of fears that arise when we're dealing with change. But the resistance to change all boils down to that one thing, which is the fear of the unknown. What I've also learned about dealing with change and having resistance is that it also has a lot to do with our need for control. So when we feel like we have everything under control, then oftentimes we don't have any fears. We don't have any concerns or worries because we feel like we've got this, that no matter what happens, I've got it under control and I'll be good. But the reality is that you can't control everything that goes on around you. Even things that you think you have control over, there's something that can impact or influence the control that you have or diminish the control that you have. So you have to look at how much you try to control. For some people, they may dislike change because it often diminishes their sense of control. When you feel like you're losing control over something that you are used to controlling, that's going to definitely bring up some fear. The secret to control is that you never really have control because anything can happen outside of your control. You can only focus on the things that you really do have control over. And in my opinion, the things that you have control over are how you feel about yourself, how you feel about other people, how you feel about your circumstances, how you view those things, the way you think about them. Right? So that's really, in a nutshell, I feel like the only things that you can really truly control. You can't control the weather. You can't control your spouse, even though you probably want to. You can't control the kids all the time, right? You can't control your job. You can't control what happens in your business. You can't control what happens in every single relationship, right? So there's a lot of things that you can't control. If you have a sense of control, needing to be in control, and when things aren't under your control and you flip out, you lose it, things change, and so you resist dealing with the direction things are going, then it causes you more of a headache because now you're dealing with resisting something that is, and the only option is to accept it. So when it comes to change, how do you deal with change and not resist change? Have you ever heard the saying that the only constant thing is change? That's so cliche. I know, I get it. But it's also true. Think about it. To a large extent, change is inevitable. Life continues to expand and grow. You are aging. Everything around you is evolving and changing, expanding, growing, or dying in some cases. So you can't beat change. So why are we so resistant to change? Why do we fear change so much? Now, there's negative changes that we have valid reasons to fear, but there's also good changes that we fear and resist because we feel like it's just not going to work out. Some things are forced, that you don't have a choice, right? So why do we resist the positive changes? Why do we even resist change at all? If change is inevitable, then in my mind, it makes no sense to resist it because you can't control it. And I think that's part of the issue. Resistance to change is in some way our fear of losing control, our fear of the unknown, of what will happen. And those two things can really, really cause a lot of anxiety. What is resistance to change? Well, resistance to change is the unwillingness to adapt to new circumstances or ways of doing things. The truth is that people are biologically wired to look for patterns and predictability. So when you don't have a pattern and you're not able to predict something, then that can trigger a lot of anxiety. So how do you overcome the resistance to change? How do you deal with that? How do you address it? But why do we fear change so much? Since it's so much of a dominant force, a presence in our existence, why do we fear it so much? I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with change. But first, I want to talk about some of the common reasons why we resist change. One of the reasons why we resist change is lack of trust. Lack of trust can be a big deal, especially when it comes to an organization. When you have people in your organization that you don't trust, then when it's time to implement a change in your business, it would be really hard to do with confidence because you're not confident that the people that are running the business or a particular person that's going to be impacted by that change will be able to help manage that change. So trust plays a big factor when it comes to being resistant to change in an organization. The second reason is poor communication. Lack of communication can greatly impact everything, right? It could impact your organization, it can impact your staff, it can impact the success of your overall business. So poor communication is something that you really have to dissect and understand and improve, because that will cause a lot of resistance to change when there's poor communication in your organization. The third reason that we resist change in an organization is the emotional response. So emotions are a part of any organization and those that are employed in them. Okay, we're dealing with people. People have emotions. So ignoring or avoiding emotions doesn't make them go away. They have to be addressed. So resistance to change could be because of an emotional response that the employees or you as the business owner may be experiencing. So it's important that you understand what these emotional responses are to the change that you're facing. Common emotional responses to change are fear, uncertainty, and worry. So if you're experiencing any of those things, or if your employees are experiencing any of those things, it's a good idea to sit down and build your communication, talk about it. Figure out what ways you can move forward so that way you can implement the changes that are needed and do it successfully without resisting it. Employees might not be able to articulate how they're feeling, and you may not feel comfortable having these conversations with your employees. But if you can work through the issues and communicate better, understand how on an emotional level it's affecting your organization, and come to some type of resolution, then it'll make the change a little bit easier. Another common reason we resist change is because of the fear of failure. Fear of failure is so real. We want to succeed. We want to do things right. In most cases, right? Dealing with change brings up all of these negative emotions, these worries, these concerns. And one of those things for many people is the fear of failure. Why do we fear failure? We have this sense of needing to be perfect, right? Like we have to have things go successfully every single time. and we have to be in control of the situation. So it kind of goes back to control, right? But the fear of failure is just as important to understand as the fear of the unknown and uncertainty. Because oftentimes what you'll find when it comes to fear of failure, it's some type of mental projection. It's some kind of irrational assumption that something bad is going to happen. Okay, so that's another reason why we resist change. So how do you overcome resistance to change? I know that has been the one question you've probably been wondering since you started this video. I'm going to give you some ways that you can overcome resistance to change. First, learn to be more open and flexible. The older you get, the wiser you become. Life is all about embracing change rather than resisting it. There are things that happen out of your control, and change is a natural flow of life. So to resist change is kind of like going up against a brick wall, right? Just running into it like a remote, like a wind-up toy that you wind up and it rolls into the wall and just keeps hitting the wall, right? Bumping the wall, bumping the wall, bumping the wall. I remember those when I was a kid. Resisting change your whole life, that's exactly what that is. It's essentially you running into a brick wall or a wall over and over again, thinking that you're going to get a different result. Learn to be open and flexible when it comes to change. Change isn't always bad, guys. Change can be great. There's a lot of learning lessons involved in change, and there's a lot of growth. There's room for growth. So learn to be open and flexible. Another way to overcome the resistance to change is to find strength in your resistance. Some people naturally meet change with resistance, and that's okay. But understanding that that's what your response is and looking for a different response is what will help you improve and grow and overcome resistance to change. The next tip to overcome resistance to change is to ask yourself, what am I resisting? Awareness is the most important piece to all of this. Understanding what it is that you're resisting and trying to challenge it and dig deep to understand why you're resisting can be the first turning point for you overcoming your fear of change. Again, focus on what you can control about the situation and seek acceptance. Learn to accept that things are the way that they are and that change is inevitable. But understand in each situation where that resistance is coming from and why you're resisting. Then make a choice. Choose to do something different or to see it differently. The next tip to overcome resistance to change is to realize that you don't fear change, you really fear loss. Change is a situational event, like losing one's job or gaining a new boss. Resistance occurs during a transition, right? Or a psychological process of acknowledging what is ending, navigating the uncertainty, then embracing what's possible in the new beginning is the process that we all go through when it comes to change. Last is to adapt a new mindset. Everything changes, and that's one truth that by the end of this video, you'll hopefully have burnt into your brain, that you can't resist change. Everything changes, and the one thing that you can do to go with the flow of change is to accept it. Accept it and find peace in it. And the only way to do that is to learn how to adapt a new mindset. Instead of looking at the worst case scenario or fearing the unknown and creating some kind of catastrophic story in your mind about what may happen as a result of this change, try to do things differently. Tell yourself a different story. Speak on what you really want to see happen as a result of the change. Look at your emotions. Look at your responses. Look at your thoughts. Look at your behaviors. Take a look at all of those things and start to dissect. Understand why you feel the way you do, what's triggering you to feel the way you do, and look at it from a different perspective. You can read books, you can go online, you can watch YouTube videos, you can continue watching my series of videos to help you with mindset. But for the love of God, Change your mindset. Work on adopting a new mindset so that way you can do better with change. You got this. From personal shifts to a changing political climate, adjusting to a new normal, all of that can be challenging, and we've all experienced that within the last 2 years. You may feel a mix of emotions ranging from joy to sadness or even depression when it comes to change. One of the things that I feel is so important for you to grasp is how to reframe your thinking. You want to figure out what's going on in your mind when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling stressed, worried, any of those feelings. You want to understand what's causing that. And once you become aware of any negative thoughts that's causing you to feel that way, then you become more aware and you're better equipped to deal with your change going forward. So instead of, I don't deserve this raise, for example, maybe think about it from a different perspective and look at how much you've worked to earn this raise. And maybe say to yourself, I worked hard for this recognition. Now, why would you fear getting a raise? I don't know, but that was the first thing that came to mind. Maybe it's a promotion. Let's just take on a new responsibility. Maybe you talk yourself out of it. Maybe it's the fear, the anxiety, the worry. The resistance to change can really talk you out of something that is meant for you. So you want to understand what that is, connect with that emotion, challenge that emotion, and reframe your thinking. That is so important when dealing with change or fear, period. When you're dealing with fear of anything, you want to check your thinking because that's the source. I hope that you find peace in change and that you embrace change in your life. If you notice that you are dealing with anxiety and it becomes unbearable, seek help. Get professional help. See a counselor. See a therapist. See someone that can help you with overcoming the deep-rooted psychological issues that arise when it comes to dealing with change. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share this video if you found it of value. Also, leave me a comment with some of the topic ideas that you have that you want me to cover to help you in future videos. I want to thank you for watching the video, and until next time, keep pursuing your dreams and work on your purpose.